another video, and today we're going to be covering Joan of Arc, a nonfiction book by Diane Stanley. Now, this is a nonfiction book, and its namesake character, Joan of Arc, as implied by her name Joan, is a woman, which is astonishing because she was actually a revolutionary knight from the Middle Ages, and women were not supposed to be knights. They were not supposed to ride horses, they were not supposed to have armor, they were not supposed to carry swords. Instead, their primary duties in the Middle Ages were supposed to be, regular housewife duties, like having children, a lot of them, feeding them, the regular middle-aged food and all of that. But they were definitely not supposed to be knights or soldiers. But what happened to Joan of Arc was, extraordinary, because she was just 18, nearly at the end of the 100 Years' War between Britain and France, which was about who was going to be the king of France, and because Britain was winning at the time, basically the British army was conquering French soil, killing a lot of French people, burning their lands, pillaging them, and generally the French people were undergoing a lot of suffering. And one day Joan of Arc received, apparently, it is said that she received the word of God, and the word of God in her dream told her to rise to battle and defeat the British and return France to its former glory, so that eventually France would be restored to its former glory, right? So Joan of Arc, bearing the word of God, presented herself to the King of France, who was named Charles, and Charles allowed her to represent him and, carrying his standard, represent him in battle, and Joan of Arc, surprisingly, was allowed to go forth to battle with the army of Charles. And if you want to know what happens next, you read this book, alright? It's an actual historic story, so this should be great if any of you are interested in history. Also, it's got plenty of cool illustrations, but it's also got a fair amount of text, which is why we've rated it a medium book. So if if this is your first medium book, I would probably encourage you to read another one, because this one is surprisingly difficult, even though it's a relatively thin book. It's got a lot of words in it. So maybe try out some of the other easy medium or some of the other easier medium books first, and then try out this one, okay? But other than that, this should be great for you, and it's obviously full of historic knowledge, and it's very, very, very well introduced. So I love this book, and I hope that you will too. Thank you. Basically, Joan of Arc was a love story in a particularly warlike era where there was this 100 Years' War